guys, my name is Jess Peters and I'm a dairy farmer in Northwestern Pennsylvania. My family, my younger brother, my parents, and I own and operate Spruce Row Farms. Let me tell you a little bit about our farm, but first, I think I'm being followed. Say hi, ladies. We milk Jerseys. We own about 500 of them, which range in about 2 hours old to 13 years old. We milk them twice a day, and we milk about 270. The farm itself has been around for hundreds of years. In 2015, we became Spruce Row Farm Incorporated, so my younger brother Cole and I could legally become part of the business. Yikes. So my plan for today is kind of take you through what we do here on our farm, daily chores. You'll get to see some adorable cows, probably hear some slightly off-key singing. I like to sing, but I'm not very good at it. And I'll tell you a little bit about the advocating I like to do for the dairy industry. Okay, this is our milking parlor. We can milk 8 at a time. It's a double 16 parallel parlor. This is Dylan. Say hi, Dylan. We're about nearing the end of our second group. We milk 3 groups, separated into mature cows and then 2-year-olds. 2-year-old group can be rough some days. We milk twice a day, so we do 14 milkings a week. I do 11 of the 14. I get 3 nights off a week. We're pretty adamant about always having a family member in here milking the cows. So the better you know your cows, the better you can take care of them. Our little Jerseys average around 65 pounds a cow, which is pretty good for Jerseys. As far as labor, my dad, brother, and I are full-time on the farm. We have one other full-time guy who's not family, and then my aunt and my sister-in-law and my mom help out with calves, and then Dylan helps on weekends.
So while I'm waiting for them to bring over a cow who calved this morning where she wasn't supposed to, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. 10 years ago, I graduated from Penn State University with a degree in animal sciences.
I thought I wanted to be a vet. Turns out I really didn't want to work with animals other than dairy cows. So I pretty much decided almost immediately I wanted to come home to the farm. But as most dairy farmers know, once you come home to the farm, you're stuck there, like stuck in a good way. So I determined I needed to do something else for a year or two before I came home to the farm. So I moved to New Zealand.
For a year and worked on a dairy farm, moved home for a year, still wasn't ready to be back, and then I moved back to New Zealand for a year and worked for a different friend on a different dairy farm.
And guys, you know in movies when people have that like epiphany moment, like, oh my god, I know what I'm going to do with my life. I figured that was just for the movies. Turns out for me it wasn't. I was in New Zealand in a paddock, fixing fence, not getting shocked for a change, because it happened to me way too often. And all of a sudden I looked up and I thought, this is the most beautiful place I'm ever going to be. And in the next breath, I thought, I am so ready to be home. So that's what I did. I came home 7 years ago. What you doing there, Cole?
I know.
Are you looking directly at the sun with a telescope? Wouldn't advise it.
Burning my corneas.
So a thought occurred to me that maybe I should explain what Cole was actually doing. He was using a refractometer to test the quality of the colostrum of the new cow we had. It tested good. Yeah! So we're going to feed it to our calf later tonight because her calf has already been fed this morning. 3 new babies this morning. So let's go visit the milk girls. Drive past the crazy loud mixer wagon. That's a 4020 tractor. She's older than me. She runs every day. Best tractor ever. They just got fed. Snapchat, invent smell-o-vision already. Here's my ladies. They're legit like the loves of my life. They never talk back. They never complain. They do get a little bit judgy, specifically when I sing to them. Jerks. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got troubles, I got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. So these guys get fed as often as they need it, which is typically about 3 times a day. They get milked twice a day. We clean their groups twice a day. Usually, this is like the first day in forever, guys, that the fans aren't running. It's amazing. Amazing. Yeah. So, as I said earlier, I moved to New Zealand for 2 years, and then I came home to the farm full-time 7 years ago. And a little tip for those of you looking to go home to your home farms, I am super blessed and lucky to have had a farm to come home to. Like, super blessed. But it was not easy. I've spent my whole life working with my family. My family is very close, even now. But coming home full-time and knowing this is going to be your full-time career, it's pretty hard to find your spot. You know, there was a lot of arguing, a lot of me trying to take things over, my dad not wanting to give them up. Just going home to your farm and doing what you've done your whole life isn't as easy as it sounds. The whole first year, honestly, was pretty rough, but what it comes down to is it's family. You either want this or you don't, and you find a way to work together. You let go of some of your personal issues and sensitivities, and you accept the fact that the work just needs to get done. The best advice I ever got was from it was a speaker at a workshop, and is the stupidest example, but I realized it's exactly what was happening. The guy said, pretend there's two people there, and there's a wrench between you. And one of you says, pick up that wrench. And the other person thinks, well, why are they telling me to pick up the wrench? Do they think I'm not going to pick up the wrench? You know, do they think I'm just going to walk by the wrench and ignore it? Whereas what you could really just take it as is, he was just reminding you to pick up that wrench. We take things personally, and I think with family that gets even harder because you say things to family you won't say to other people, right? Yeah. I just thought it was worth mentioning my struggles of going home to the farm, because you think you've worked with them your whole life, how hard could it be to transition into that co-ownership position? But it's harder, it can be harder than you think. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone from doing it, but just know it's not going to be a cakewalk. Unless there's cake, which would make it a lot easier. Fun fact, all of our cows have names. Gonzo, Hurricane, Skittles, Peyton, Lipo. Lipo's mother's name was Botox. This is all the hay we've made this year. So we also raise all of our own crops. Everything we grow is fed to our cows. What I was just showing you is our baleage for this year. We've made about 1,600 bales. We shoot for about 2,000, all alfalfa baleage. Last year we made about 2,500, which is phenomenal. Northwestern PA is a very hard place to raise crops. Very hard. But we're still feeding hay from last year, which never, ever, 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 ever happens. We plant everything ourselves. We harvest all of our hay ourselves. The only thing we don't do crop-wise is harvest our corn. We don't have a chopper or combine, and they're very specialized pieces of equipment that cost a lot of money. So we help haul the corn, but we don't actually harvest it. This year, I'm not going to lie, corn harvest is going to be pretty depressing. Last year was one of the best years we've ever had. This year, most of our corn is shorter than me. I'm only 5'5". That's not good. We farm a total of 600 acres, half of which we rent. About 370 of it is corn, and the other half is alfalfa. We only grow alfalfa hay. Oh my gosh. What is that blinding orb in the sky? It's so bright! That's how much sun we usually get a year. Cole and I work pretty well together because he does the equipment and I do the cows. I can drive the equipment, but if it breaks, I call Cole. And he can handle the cows, but if they break, he calls me. Dad kind of does it all. Cole and I handle mostly the day-to-day stuff now. Dad kind of does big picture. He works on a lot of projects. He does all the breeding and handles the crops as far as seed buying decisions and when to harvest and that kind of thing. He has been doing this for over 30 years. Actually, his senior year of college, he took a full course load and ran the dairy pretty much by himself, which we weren't this big, but still, that's a ton of work. So we finally got in the house from milking this morning, and it's every farmer's favorite time of day, lunchtime. We still do the traditional farmer style where everyone on the farm comes in for lunch and we feed a big hot meal and we talk about what we're going to be doing for the afternoon or anything that happened in the morning that everyone needs to know about. Our milk is shipped to a Dean's Foods fluid plant just south of here. Because we have jerseys, they love to take it for cheese to cheese plants because Jersey milk versus a pound of other breeds' milk will actually make more cheese. But the problem is, thanks to the Pennsylvania Milk Marketing Board, if you're a Pennsylvania dairy, who ships milk to a fluid Pennsylvania plant, you get an extra $1 per hundredweight of milk. I ain't that loyal to my cheese company. Sorry, guys. If you pay me $1.10, I'll switch. I was trying to get a picture of them with their nose rings, but apparently they don't want to be cooperative today. Heifers, you know? I had a couple questions about why there are nose rings in some of our cows. So we milk Jerseys. Jerseys are notoriously oral cows. They like to lick things all the time and suck on things, no matter how old they are. So we used to have a lot of trouble with them sucking each other. So about 4 years ago now, maybe, we started putting a nose ring in every calf before it leaves the calf barn and goes into group housing. It literally cut down our instance of sucked cows, which would mean they'd come into the parlor right after they calve with only 3 working quarters or sometimes only 2 working quarters, and we couldn't even milk them. We were having a couple a month. It cut it down to a couple a year. 100% worth it. $8 a nose ring. Takes a couple minutes to put them in. It was like night and day. The way I describe it to people is like, let's pretend you have chronic back pain. If I told you piercing your ear would make that go away, would you do it? Yeah, you would. So this is not late for people in our area to be starting to chop or be chopping. Like I said, we don't have the greatest growing season ever. We have, however, had to start buying some corn silage. It's not as good as what we made last year, but we're not out of what we made last year yet. So we were actually able to keep feeding our milk cows the high quality feed we made while buying some that's not quite as good to feed our heifers. And the last question I got from a couple people about what we do with our calves. And I feed calves at 4 every day, so I'm a few minutes late. So let's go feed some babies. Hey guys, so I'm in the calf barn. This is our calf barn setup. I have about a dozen bottles right now in 7 buckets. I have a helper today, so 6 of them are out. We feed all our calves milk replacer, mostly because we're not really set up to feed milk to them. The barns are further apart and it'd just be logistically kind of a big deal. We have been doing something very different with our calves for the last year that I'm super excited about. But first off, every calf gets 4 liters of good colostrum within the first 24 hours of birth. We don't tube it, we always feed it. We typically get every calf to drink it. They also get a tube of Equalizer, which looks like this, but is not this. It's like an oral antibody to help them get through the period where the passive immunity is dipping before their active immunity kicks in. It helps keep them healthy. So the thing that has made me most excited in our calf program over the last year is vinegar. Literally apple cider vinegar. About a year ago, you know how you always try to fix your problems, like you try to get better, right? Well, in your calf program, the #1 dairy disease in dairy calves is scours, which is calf diarrhea. And we were at a point where almost every calf that came into our barn would get scours. We were getting really good at treating it, but you want to prevent it, right? So our dairy nutritionist, words are hard, gave us a tip. He had a guy who was raising calves, bull calves they bought from livestock auctions, and he was feeding each calf a tablespoon of vinegar. So I did some research. Most of it came from beef farmers, but it read about an ounce of vinegar a day was helping decrease the amount of scours in calves. Since October 10th of 2016, that's what we've been doing. Every day, our calves get fed twice a day. Each bottle gets a tablespoon of vinegar at each feeding for the first month. Game changer. I'm literally knocking on wood right now because I'm going to say something dairy farmers absolutely hate to say. We have only lost 3 calves since we started the vinegar. 3 calves. That is such a big deal. The research I've done, I think the vinegar is not only helping their pH balance within their stomach and their body, but it's also the organic acids are help creating an environment where the E. coli can survive maybe, but not thrive. We still get a few calves scour. The most I treat them with is penicillin. I treated less pneumonia and respiratory issues. The only drugs in my cabinet are penicillin, Draxin for the respiratory issues, and some Flunix, Banamine for anti-inflammatory or aspirin. It's been a complete game changer. And I've been screaming it from the mountaintops. Feed your calves vinegar. It's amazing. Are you eating paper? When they're really young, we bed them with paper. until they get used to not eating sawdust. And then when they're older, they just eat the sawdust anyway. Yay! So this is our calf barn. We feed them bottle for about 4 weeks and then switch them to a milk bucket. And then we wean them anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. Actually, since we started feeding them vinegar, we found we've been able to wean them around about 7 weeks. They're growing stronger, they're growing bigger, they're weaning faster, they're healthier. Honestly, I cannot... Jeez, guys, I'm talking here. I cannot say enough good things about feeding them the vinegar. This is Heidi Ho. She was born on the 26th. We start them out in a small bottle. They're usually there for about a week, depending on their size. I mean, these are Jerseys, guys. I can have some pretty tiny calves. And then they get a 3-quart bottle twice a day. Every time we change something big, we keep something the same. So when we switch them to milk bucket, we feed them the same amount of milk. When we wean them to water, they get fed the same grain for about a week until we switch them to their pellets, which is a little less protein, a little cheaper grain. But they also start getting fed dairy quality hay that's got good protein in it. Something I super want to brag about are these stall fronts. A couple years ago, 2 years ago maybe, my dad pretty much single-handedly rebuilt them all. Welded the whole thing. We got the steel tubing fairly cheap from a tool and die company in town. It's all defective in some way. The company they were making it for didn't quite want it, but it worked perfectly for us. The whole barn he redid. Look how clean that looks. I mean, other than the fact that the floor's not swept. And then also we were changing out fans in the milk barn at the same time. So we got 3 of their old fans, and this sucker, tunnel ventilated. What? I'm sorry to all you other cow dairy milkers out there. There is legit nothing cuter than a Jersey calf. Look at that face. Okay, just stop licking me, all right? All right? Pretty nice having a calf barn. Above every calf is a sign with their mother's name, their own birth date, and how they're fed. So W-H&P means water, hay, and pellets. So these guys get pellets. It's an 18% protein pellet, and our texture grain is a 22% protein. Full of molasses. They love it. So if you didn't think the last calf was cute, what about this one? Look at you! Look at her feet! Oh my god, oh my god. That, my friends, is Scours. This is baby Scratchy. Honestly, since the vinegar, this is what my scouring calves look like. They used to get so dehydrated so quick, like it was a giant uphill battle. We're talking IV, fluids, so many different antibiotics. But she is drinking through it like a champ. Last step, wash and sanitize all the bottles and buckets. So, you know we're getting ready to chop corn because this bad boy had the unloader serviced and folded up today. We got 2 of those suckers. What? 80 feet high, 24 foot circumference. One last thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is that the way I try to advocate for the dairy industry. A few years ago, I was home milking, and I felt like I needed to do more. What was I thinking, right? And I just feel like people's misconceptions about the dairy industry were so huge and ridiculous and daunting, and that we need to do more. So I started a farm Facebook page. Since then, that has escalated into a blog and an Instagram page and a Snapchat account. And I write blogs for Horde's Dairymen. I write some articles for the state Pennsylvania Dairymen's Association for their blog. I've written articles for my local newspaper, for a few other magazines. I wrote a kids book with children's themed farm songs. I'm about to sing you one. Get ready! Big blue tractor, have you any fuel? Yes sir, 1 tank full. Fuel to feed cows with, fuel to make hay. Fuel to help haul all the cow poop away. Big blue tractor, have you any fuel? Yes sir, 1 tank full. Anyway, I wrote it for my nephew. There's like 11 songs, and I thought it was really fun. So I randomly sent it to a publisher and they wanted to publish it. It's like happening right now. How crazy is that? I just find that any positive influence you can put out there about the dairy industry is good. And guys, if you can make it a little bit fun or, you know, certifiably insane, people will watch. We're a society who wants to be entertained. Entertain people and they'll learn something along the way. Never say no to a farm tour. Never say no to a new opportunity. If it makes you nervous, it's probably something that's going to help you grow. The other thing about being a good advocate is come up with new ideas and chase them down. My brother does this super cool thing he calls Poor Boy GoPro. He literally just turns a video on in his phone, turns his hat backwards, and shoves his phone into the back of his hat and videos what he does. We're way too cheap to buy a GoPro. They're expensive. We're dairy farmers. What, you think I'm made of gold? One more snap because I can't resist. But listen to this. Quiet barn is a happy barn.